This is what actually happens if South Korea attacks North Korea. The Korean Peninsula is a deep fault line in global geopolitics, a place where the Cold War never truly ended. For more than 70 years, two nations have existed in a fragile truce, technically still at war. A tense quiet has been maintained by a delicate balance of power, mutual deterrence, and the constant threat of total annihilation. The world has grown accustomed to the cycle of provocations and talks, assuming the precarious status quo will hold. We assume that if war were to erupt again, it would be started by the North. But what if that assumption is wrong? What if the first shot isn't fired from the North, but from the South? A preemptive strike, calculated to neutralize a threat before it can ever be launched. This isn't a flight of fancy, it's a scenario rooted in the calculated reality of South Korean military strategy. What follows is a journey into a scenario that is not only plausible but is actively planned for a scenario where a single defensive act could spiral into a global catastrophe, challenging everything we think we know about modern war. At 0200 hours, under the cover of darkness, South Korean forces launch a preemptive strike against key military targets in North Korea. The world holds its breath, waiting for a conventional response. But what happens next is something no one predicted. The carefully scripted war games of generals and strategists are about to be torn apart by a reality far more terrifying than any of them had dared to imagine. The act was meant to prevent a war, but instead, it may have just ignited the world. To understand how a South Korean first strike is even possible, we have to discard the simple image of a pacifist South and a purely aggressive North. The reality is far more complex. For years, South Korea has been refining a military doctrine known as the three-axis system. This isn't just a defensive plan, it is an aggressively proactive strategy designed to survive in the shadow of a nuclear-armed neighbor. The first and most critical axis of this system is the kill chain. This is the doctrine that would authorize the 0200-hour strike. The kill chain is a preemptive platform designed to detect imminent signs of a North Korean nuclear or missile attack and launch a debilitating assault to destroy those assets before they can be used. This involves a network of satellites, spy planes, and ground intelligence feeding a central command. If intelligence shows North Korea fueling missiles or preparing its arsenal, the kill chain protocol could be initiated. The second axis is the Korea Air and Missile Defense (KMD) system, a multi-layered shield of Patriot and Kiolmi-2 surface-to-air missiles. It is designed to intercept anything that survives the initial strike, though its effectiveness against a saturation attack remains a serious concern. The third and final axis is the most chilling, the Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation Plan, or KMPR. If North Korea succeeds in an attack, KMPR calls for a devastating retaliatory strike aimed at one thing: the complete elimination of the North Korean leadership. This three-axis system, especially the kill chain, moves South Korea from a purely defensive stance to one of anticipatory self-defense. It's a strategy born of a terrifying reality. When your neighbor possesses chemical and biological weapons, and an arsenal that could contain as many as 70 to 90 nuclear warheads, waiting to be attacked is seen as a strategic failure. North Korea's own doctrine is a mirror image of this aggression. For Pyongyang, its nuclear arsenal is the ultimate guarantee of the regime's survival. In September 2022, North Korea passed a law outlining terrifyingly broad conditions for using nuclear weapons, including preemption of a fatal military attack against important strategic objects. The law makes it clear that if the leadership is targeted, a nuclear strike is to be launched automatically and immediately. While the operational reliability of such a dead hand system is unconfirmed, it signals a promise of mutual annihilation. The North Korean military, the Korean People's Army, KPA, is one of the largest in the world, with roughly 1.32 million active soldiers and around 560,000 reservists. While much of its hardware is obsolete, it holds a key asymmetric advantage: a massive artillery force positioned along the Demilitarized Zone (DMZ). An estimated 10,000 artillery pieces are hidden in hardened, underground bunkers, with many capable of reaching the Seoul metropolitan area, home to 25 million people. This is the threat behind North Korea's infamous promise to turn Seoul into a sea of fire. This volatile dynamic is watched with extreme anxiety by the region's major powers. The United States is treaty-bound to defend South Korea, with nearly 29,000 troops stationed there as an integral part of the combined command. To the north, China's primary interest is preventing a collapse of the North Korean regime, which could trigger a massive refugee crisis and bring U.S. troops to its border on the Yalu River. A new, destabilizing element has been added to this mix: Russia. Seeking munitions for its war in Ukraine, Moscow has forged a deep military partnership with Pyongyang. North Korea has supplied Russia with millions of artillery shells and ballistic missiles, and in return, is believed to be receiving advanced Russian technology. While reports of North Korean combat troops deploying to Ukraine are unconfirmed, this alliance has emboldened Pyongyang and made its behavior even less predictable. This is the Korean Peninsula in 2025. It is a tinderbox of interlocking military doctrines and nuclear red lines. South Korea, with its kill chain, feels it must be ready to strike first to survive. North Korea, with its nuclear tripwires, feels it must launch at the first sign of an attack. Both sides are primed for a preemptive war that nobody wants, but everyone is prepared to start.